Hey, good morning, Falcons. It's Miss Price. It's Tuesday, September 8th, and this is our morning meeting. Um, I'm recording this on a Monday evening, so I'm not quite sure what we're going to wake up to. But some people had sent me this map, and I wanted to share it with you guys just to show off how wild this is. So here's to hoping that everyone is safe and warm. And if you need anything extra today, like please let us know. It is okay. And embrace the weird for today. All right. Our objectives that Falcons will be able to celebrate their peers for living the core values and stooping at a high level. Falcons will also be able to discuss the importance of internal and external identity. You'll see the video on icon on quite a few slides. I chose really specific slides that I think it's really important that we are able to see each other to either for those celebrations or discussions to really amplify them. So if you see that signal and like you're able to, like please turn on your video because we'd love to see you, and it's best if we see each other. So I will read our core value nominees, and then after that, the advisors will play the video for the winner. So if you like see someone that you know, go ahead and snap them up. If it's someone in your advisory, like cheer them on, because they all deserve this recognition. So our nominees are Josh, Jackson, Beck, Makai, Layla B, King, Christy, Layla A, Ivy, Dustin, Zach. So advisors, go ahead and pause and go to the advisory slides. And then come back. Okay, and now for Stoop. So again, if you see a name that you're like, yeah, like snap them up and write it down in the chat too. Lily, Quilea, Almajed, Cole, Danny, Emtisal, go Bears, Elle, Aya, Belle, and Rowan. So again, advisors, go ahead and pause, go to our advisory slides, and then come on back. Okay, and now we're on to the discussion about identity. So I wanted to do this just because I was thinking about how, as we've been getting to know each other online, I feel like there's a lot that we're seeing on the surface. And I'd like for us to really think about what we are comfortable with, about like our internal identity sharing as well. I know that as I've gotten, like when I was in middle school, there was something called AOL. That's like when we used to chat. And although now looking back, it was like super, like kind of dangerous. It was not a cool idea to like talk to strangers online. It's like all we'd ever ask was about like external identity stuff, and like never really got to know anyone deeply. And so I just feel like now's the time as advisories to like get closer. So when we talk about identity, we say like I identify as or I am. And the first things that come out are usually things about race, ethnicity, and gender. Those are like they're usually things that you can kind of see. Although maybe those could be like misrepresented. We can talk more about that later as well. And then also roles in life, because they are also a big part of our identity. It's usually kind of how we start sharing the deeper parts of ourselves. Okay. So for example, I could say, I am a white female teacher. Those are all like pretty obvious things, like all external, especially if you know me in like at Byers, the teacher part, my role. But like this stuff on the surface, like, is that really all that we are? So we're going to use this metaphor of like the identity iceberg. So it's been said that only like 10% of an iceberg is seen above the ocean. And that means 90% of an iceberg's mass is below water. And so if we use that metaphor for ourselves, it means that the tip of the iceberg, the small part, the 10%, is just what you see on the outside. But there is still a lot underneath that people cannot see as easy. So the language we can use for that, for like the deeper part, is like, but if you really knew me. It's also really important to acknowledge, though, that those deeper parts of your identity can connect to the external parts that everyone sees. They're not always totally separate. They also can very much affect each other. So the next few slides, I'm going to show some graphs and statistics about all of 7th grade, especially because like we can't all sit in a room together. So I kind of want you to imagine, like if we're all sitting in a room together, this is kind of what we see. And what do you think that says about our 7th grade class, or about 2026? So for example, this graph is a graph about race. And so now you can see how many students of each race we have. So in the chat, you can either answer like, what does this say about the class of 2026, or other things that you notice, or things that you question. And advisors, I suggest you kind of keep an eye on the chat. And if something interesting comes up, like please feel free to pause this video and like continue with like whatever conversation comes more natural. All right, and then this is another graph that breaks down our 7th grade class by like gender assigned at birth. So we can see how many of each gender assigned at birth we have. So again, like what does that say about the class of 2026, or like things that you notice or things that you question about it? And again, advisors, check on that chat and just see if there's a conversation you want to take deeper. Okay, and then these last statistics I'll talk more about because it didn't look right to me. And that is our percentage of English language learners, or like I like to say multilingual learners. But this graph shows the percentage of students that speak more than one language at home. I don't know why it says 4%, because I know that I work with 17 students that speak more than one language, because that is part of my role as the ELD teacher. And I worked with a lot of you guys last year. I worked with more than 17 students from 2026 as 6th graders. But this is kind of a good bridge between our internal and external to internal identities, because language could be considered part of either kind of identity, outside or inside, because if someone hears you speak another language, they'll realize that's part of your identity. But if they never hear it, then they wouldn't know. So also maybe in the chat, this would be a cool time to say, like, if you speak another language at home, or maybe if, like, as a student, you're learning another language, go ahead and put that in the chat. But then also, what does that say about our 7th grade class, or like what you notice and what you question? But also imagine it's higher than 4%. Okay, so those statistics showed a lot of things that we can tell from the outside. So like if we were all to sit in a room together, a lot of what we just looked at we would like physically see. It's possible that a lot of us have either like have felt judged by those external identities or have like felt misrepresented by some external identities. As we go into the discussion, that could be something to talk about. But another main question, especially as we're thinking about the inside, our internal identity, like, is this all that we are? I'm going to read some quotes from what some students have shared with me via like a Google form. If you resonate with something that I read, like go ahead and put that in the chat. So go ahead and it's okay to keep that chat active. The first one says, I'm very fast and strong and I know martial arts. Parts of my identity that people don't know just by looking at me is that I'm a big reader. Some parts of my identity that people would not know just by seeing me is that I want to please people and make them proud of me. Well, when people first see me, they think I'm mean and intimidating. Well, some people know that I'm really sensitive. If people are mean to me at all, I cry. I mean, I don't like to talk a lot with people I'm getting to know, but when I do, then I tend to talk a lot. So these quotes really connect to parts of our internal identity. So maybe internally we identify as anxious, or we identify as very studious. Part of internal identity could be our strengths and weaknesses as students. Some of us identify as athletic and strong. Some identify as sensitive and emotional. I'll mention a second time, or maybe even a third, that like sometimes we feel like misrepresented or like identified incorrectly. Like this person who said that they are usually seen as mean and intimidating at first. But I would like for the rest of this time to be for advisors to kind of lead a conversation. Advisors choose as you want with things about video and raising hands and using the chat. But I'd like to have a conversation within our advisories about the parts of our identities that like our advisory hasn't seen yet, that part that is underneath that surface, that 90%. It can be something silly or it can be something deep. That is all up to like what you feel comfortable sharing. Okay. And so with that, your advisors will lead the discussion after this video. Now I'll just leave you with a quote from one of my favorite that's old, TikTok people as I started watching during quarantine. Not vegan, but Miss Tabitha Brown, whenever she says, have a good day, but if you can't, don't you dare go messing up nobody else's. I would just resonate with that. So I'll leave you with that. Remember to share what you feel comfortable with in these conversations. Have a great rest of your day. Bye.